if we aren't building value, then it doesn't matter how much they trust us. It doesn't matter how urgent or desperate they are. If they don't value what it is that we're offering, then they're not going to make a decision. And that's why it's so important to listen. That's why it's so important to empathize. That's why it's so important to ask the right questions. As a matter of fact, I've impressed more customers by the questions that I've asked than the insights I was able to give, right?
You think of sales as you should psychologically, right? And you mentioned to me that there's three core, after doing what you've done personally and coaching other people, there was three core things that you've identified
Correct.
that really help determine if someone's going to be successful in the home and closing the sale. What can you share those with everybody, what those three things are?
Absolutely. I call it the trifecta. You have trust, value, and urgency. A matter of fact, I'm going to go as far as to say, not only are you unable to close a deal without performing these three things, but you're unable to be a consumer without ensuring that these three things are validated.
Right.
Trust, value, and urgency. Can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and again, if it's a principle, then if it works anywhere, then it has to work everywhere, right?
Sure.
Okay, so let's say this. Okay, I have this bottle of water. Okay, so trust, value, urgency. So, Bob, let's say you're thirsty. Okay, you're very thirsty, not quite dehydrated, and you go to a restaurant and they give you this bottle of water. Okay, but the thing is, there's lipstick on it, and you could see that there's stuff just all over, and it's like, what the heck is this, right? But the water is pure and you're super thirsty. Are you going to drink it?
Probably not.
Right. And why?
Because I don't trust it.
Exactly. You don't trust the vessel that it's coming in, right?
For sure.
Exactly. And in the same way, how are we showing up? Are we showing up in a way that our customers trust us?
That's correct.
Right? Are we showing up in a way that's clean, right? Are we articulating ourselves in a way that's confident, you know? Because if we aren't the vessel that is going to be ideal, then people are not going to want to receive our ideas, right? And so that's the first part. It's trust.
And let me interject real quick. I remember when we talked, you said even when you go to the home and you wear a coat, you make sure to wear a coat that's slim fit. You don't want some bulky to make it feel like you're hiding something or going to steal. I just thought you're very intentional in how you look. I thought that was unique, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that is very clear is we make decisions based on how we feel, and that has to do with our subconscious mind, right? And the only chance that we're going to get out of first impression is one. You're only going to get one chance out of first impression, and I'm not saying I like it, but I do understand that this is the case. People are going to make a judgment of you the moment that you walk in the door, the moment that they hear your voice, and based on that judgment, what they're going to do is they're going to move forward with confirmation bias from the rest of the way, right? And so what you need to do is make sure that you set yourself up for success, understanding that. And that's why trust is so important, because if they don't trust you, then they're not going to want to receive from you, right?
For sure.
And so now the next part then is going to be the value, right? So let's go back to that analogy.
Absolutely.
So you go to the same restaurant, you have a clean glass, right? But let's say you're like me. Let's say you're lactose intolerant, okay? And you have milk in this clean glass. You're still super thirsty. Are you going to drink it?
I'm not.
Exactly, right? You're not going to drink it because you don't value what's inside of it, right? And so if we aren't building value, then it doesn't matter how much they trust us. It doesn't matter how urgent or desperate they are. If they don't value what it is that we're offering, then they're not going to make a decision. And that's why it's so important to listen. That's why it's so important to empathize. That's why it's so important to ask the right questions. As a matter of fact, I've impressed more customers by the questions that I've asked than the insights I was able to give, right? And so more on that in a moment. So that's the next part. Okay, and remember, I said you can't even consume without these three. So now here's the final one, urgency. Let's say I have this beautiful crystal glass. Oh my gosh, I just want to put my lips all over it, right? And then you have the water just straight from heaven, but you just had a competition to see who could drink the most water, and you're about to just freaking upchuck, right? So let me ask you this. Are you going to drink it?
Not at all.
Right, because you don't have the urgency,
That's sure.
right? And so what is important is you have to have the trifecta. You have to have trust, you have to have value, and you have to have urgency.
Yeah.
Here's the unique thing. I shared this information with Rilla, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up, Bob, is because when you have, so I hold sales trainings across the nation, and when I have everyone on, the thing is, there's a spectrum. There's some people that are new to sales. Maybe they're not new to sales, but they're new to the business. There's some folks that are super experienced in the business and super experienced in sales.
Yeah.
I need to deliver a message in 35 to 45 minutes that's going to reach everyone.
Sure.
And the best way to do this is by utilizing principles, right?
Sure.
And so that's why when we talk about trust, we talk about value, we talk about urgency. These are the pillars that make all the difference.
I love it.